Have you guys ever ridden a roller coaster? Especially the really fast ones that go in an upside down loop. Sometimes they twist and turn in the middle of the loop. Um, that point where you're at the top of the hill and then you're looking down and the roller coaster starts to pick up speed till it gets to the bottom. You can see that loop coming, and there's like this adrenaline rush, and there's fear, and you're literally like testing your limits of faith in the builders of the track and the engineers of this ride that you paid for to go on. Um, so yeah, once that loop's complete, it's like a breath of fresh air. The coaster slows down a little bit. You're like, wow, I just went through that. It's crazy. Hey, Venus lovers and beautiful souls. It's Dr. Danny, physician astrologer. How's everyone feeling? Like the pressure's kind of letting off a little bit. Like you can kind of just chill. Yeah, I've been feeling it too. That Venus retrograde, whew, that was intense, but it wasn't like I was expecting. It's always like that though when you get off that ride, isn't it? So, guys, we have a lot to talk about today. I was actually going to do this in a 2 month span where we are going to go all the way through October and the eclipses, but there is so much energy just to sort of integrate from the retrograde and then to move forward and get ready for the eclipse. So I decided to do a short span of time for you. And when y'all look at my calendar notes, man, it's a lot. So, but I'm going to take my time. I will have timestamps. This video is good for about 27, 28 days. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. I'm not going to discuss every moon phase energy. I am going to touch on the new moons and the full moons just a little bit, but basically I want to hit on the bigger themes. And then I want to talk to you guys about an opportunity to team up with me during the solar and lunar eclipses and the time before that are on the horizon. So more on that later. Let me share my screen. We'll do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll read some astrology. So let's see, where do we start? Um, I think the first thing I want to do is just kind of reach out to you guys and let you know that I need some donors. I don't have a lot of spaces for this call, but I wanted to tell you guys about it. Any of you that are following my work, you know we've just completed that Venus retrograde, that roller coaster ride through those energies, and it was super intense. Right up until that Venus star point, man, my energy was just, and then a little bit afterwards it took me probably about a week to start feeling myself again. And I went through a couple of lessons through this Venus retrograde. And I share that. There's a video in here on this page. I'm going to leave a link to this. I don't want to go too much into it because the video explains everything. But basically, it's an hour private one-on-one Zoom call with me. We're going to look at your chart. We're going to look at the retrograde we're going to look at your transits through the retrograde and then look a little bit forward and kind of see how all of that worked out for you. But here were my lessons. So if you want to sign up for that, all I need is $77 and an hour of your time. And this is going to help all of us integrate the Venus retrograde and contribute to the collective knowledge about the cosmology of Venus for the new age that we're coming into. Okay, let's just do the other stuff real quick. So this is my website. Come on over here, drdani.com, DRDANI. You can also follow me on Facebook, Dr. Danny, Physician Astrologer. Okay. And then let's just dive right into you want to like and subscribe my YouTube channel too, guys. If you love this content, please just give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're lurking, and we'll go from there. So I think I'll start this by showing you guys the Venus cycle video that I made. This is about a minute long, and we're gonna just talk right through it. Okay. So here's what you're gonna see. You're gonna watch Venus as the evening star. This started back in October of 2022, and it goes all the way to next June. Okay, so this is when I started watching Venus, when I started doing the transits: Venus through Taurus, Venus through Gemini, Venus through Cancer, Venus into Leo, catching up to Mars just a little bit. Oh, and then stationing retrograde. Okay, and then there was the Venus star point, retrograde, morning star now. And we're going to keep watching her because now that she's stationed direct, this is the future. You can see the movements of Venus. And this is one complete cycle. This is one complete roller coaster loop. And the bottom of the next hill is right here. Okay, so I will leave a link for that. I want you guys to watch that over and over and over again and just kind of let that sink in, let the codes from that cycle come to you. Because when you're watching a chart, if you understand astrology a little bit, you're going to feel some of this. And everything from Taurus to Gemini to Cancer to Leo, where we are right now, is the work that I have been doing over the last several months. So I want y'all to definitely check that out. All right, let me go to Stellarium because I wanted to show you the time frame that we're looking at. We're going to cover Venus through September 4th to October 1st, essentially. And then the video after that will be Venus through the eclipse. It's going to be a pretty powerful energy. So let's just watch this real quick. You see Venus down there. We're going to move this up just a little bit. Just going to keep on going. You can see where the sun and Venus are too. Isn't that interesting? Not at all what they tell you in tropical, but that's okay. We love our tropical brothers and sisters. They're just as smart as we are. They're just not looking up, and that's okay. We're going to get them to look up one of these days. So there you can see Venus, and there's a Mercury retrograde. Oh yeah, Mercury went retrograde on the 24th, guys. So there you see it. There you have it. That's what we're doing. And guys, you're going to be so proud of me. That's all of the celestial mechanics you're going to get in this video. I don't want to bore you too much. So I did my usual nerdy sort of calendar transits. I really like this. This helps me kind of pick up on the energies. I'm also a very graphical spatial person. And so when I see waves of energy come in like this, I can tell you that right now we're in a lull. And this lull is going to last until about mid-month. And then after that new moon, man, things are going to start getting crazy and very energetic. So we're going to go over all of that. I did also want to give you guys a quick look at the chart and the movements that we're going to be experiencing over the next several weeks. So here you go. Watch Venus up here. She's a little bit before this video starts. We're going to move up to the 4th of September because this is where Venus will station direct. Okay, so you can see she starts off in Cancer and then moves into Leo around the 15th. And then begins, gosh, literally like her third transit through Leo this year. So you can, that's what we're going to be covering, and you're going to be able to see all of that. Let's look real quick at the transit grid because I think there's some interesting information in there, and then we will go right into the energies. Okay, guys? So let me do transits. And if you guys are using Prometheus, you'll see how this works. I might cut this out. I'm not sure. Because dead space on YouTube isn't cool. Nobody likes that. We're just going to stay in Corpus. I like to change this to all the stuff. And then I like to take that out. And then we begin to see what's happening. So we're going to go from September 4th to October 1st. Same year. Okay, good. Begin search. We're going to make it a graph. We're going to sort to range scan. Okay, that looks pretty cool. So here's the energy we're going to be going through, but we're going to be focusing on what Venus is doing. So sometimes a cool thing to do is sort it by point. And there you have it. So we're going to talk about a couple big things here going on with Venus. The first thing will be this square with Jupiter. Now these lines on this predictive grid, they're shorter, they're within 1 degree. When I do my calendar, they are within 7 degrees. So the energy wave here on this grid, you're seeing the peak of the wave, and on my map, you're seeing the entire wave as it comes at you. Okay, so we'll be talking about this one. We'll be talking about this one. We will also talk about this guy. So that's Jupiter, Chiron, and Uranus, as well as the nodes. So there's a lot of big energy in here, and I'm excited. So let's get going. I'm going to put this down and get back to our map. Okay. So I know I keep harping on this roller coaster, but I need you to understand this, because this first transit that we're going to discuss, Venus retrograde squares on Jupiter in Aries, is a very, very long transit. It started right around the star point around August 13th, 14th, and it continues all the way until the 24th of September. But there's some dynamics within this square. Okay. So things are changing about every week with this square, because Venus is doing her retrograde loop, and then Jupiter is starting the retrograde loop, and then there's some sign changes in there. Okay, so the Venus square Jupiter in general. So after the morning star, which was August 13th, this is in the calendar prior to this, you had a retrograde Venus in Leo, a baby newborn morning star, squaring on Jupiter in Aries, that expression of the self, that big expansive expression of the self, or faith in the self. And so a square, remember guys, is always like either a lesson, a sacrifice, or a letting go. Okay, so it's accept, let go, lesson. That's what's happening within that square. And so I feel like that is sort of struggling with self-confidence, right? That new baby morning star kind of struggling with the expansive energy of Jupiter in Aries. She's retrograde. You can't quite see her yet. So that to me just feels like self-confidence. That goes until about August 24th. Remember, we're on the previous calendar, where she enters into Cancer. So instead of, trying to fight and trying to struggle to be the morning star, maybe she hasn't quite let go of what was going on prior to the Venus star point. Now she's in Cancer. And so this is more of a surrender, because if you resist expanding your boundaries, if you resist setting boundaries, if you don't play in that energy at all, it's going to be very difficult. And so I feel like when Venus goes from Leo to Cancer in retrograde, squaring on Jupiter still, this feels a little bit more like a release. Like, okay, I'm gonna let this go. Okay. So because this is a long square, it can be used very constructively. It doesn't have to be something that hits you in the feels and makes you feel really bad. It just means, okay, I need to do this right now, and I need to take care of myself. Then what happens so now we're getting into September. So then what happens is that Jupiter stations retrograde and Venus stations direct, almost like their roller coaster loops are crisscrossing each other. Okay. And the same day Venus stations direct, she begins her trine on retrograde Chiron, which we'll talk about in a second. So now what happens to this energy, as you've got Venus in Cancer direct right now, and you've got a retrograde Jupiter, now there's a new confidence in the self. Okay, so you guys should be starting to feel a new self-confidence, maybe even an overdoing it, like I'm so great. So you have to be careful with that Jupiter energy, but because it's retrograde, it's more of an internal process. You're on the upside down part of the Jupiter retrograde loop. Then on the 15th, Venus goes back into Leo. Okay, so she was Leo, Cancer, Leo, direct, retrograde, direct, and then Jupiter was direct and is now retrograde. Okay, so I hope all that makes sense. So there's a renewed energy and a resolution of the square once Venus enters into Leo in the direct motion, and that will happen on the 15th of September. Okay, so that's that big one. That's the first one we want to talk about. That one just kind of reminds me of a roller coaster. Then I did mention that on the 4th, Venus is going to trine on a retrograde Chiron. Now, if you guys have been following me or working with me, you know that Chiron has been dancing. Venus and Chiron have been doing a little dance pretty much all year in a square and a trine. And this is the third and the last time that Venus will trine on Chiron this year. She was direct late June and early July. And during that time frame, she was in Gemini. So it was, what are the wounds and how do you work with them, right? Chiron's wounds are deep. They're subconscious. They are the wounds that pretty much don't ever heal. If you think about the mythical figure of Chiron, he had a wound that wouldn't heal because he was an immortal. And so he was doomed to this life everlasting with this wound that would not heal. and he begged for death, right? So the Chiron wounds are always there. We're never going to get rid of them. We literally have to look at them, love them, accept them, and find a way to be ourselves with those wounds. And that was my biggest lesson over the course of the summer. Then in August, Venus goes retrograde, late July, early August. How did we come to terms with those wounds? And that is about the time frame for me. So, and then how did you heal? Well, I did a lot of inner work. I did a little bit of intention setting. I did a little bit of acceptance and surrender. So now that Venus is direct again, direct with a retrograde Chiron, what exactly did we learn, and how are we helping? Okay. And so that is the whole reason behind me wanting to get this call out to you guys. I've set aside some time where we can actually meet one-on-one and integrate these lessons, because I think Chiron is the biggest lessons of Venus over this summer. Okay, the next big transit that's going to start, guys, is going to be right here on the 13th of September. Venus is going to sextile a Mars in Virgo. So I can't help but talk about the Venus and Mars story whenever they make an aspect. Sextiles are always opportunities. Whenever you have the divine feminine and the sacred masculine making a favorable aspect to one another, this is an opportunity to unify intentions in both the yin and the yang sides of your life, and to move forward in a very balanced and harmonious fashion. Mars in Virgo is the will of the divine mother creator, the will of the Sophia. It's the will of taking energy and turning it into matter. And then we've got the creative light of Venus coming at us from Cancer, the love of love, the desire to be in that protected space, that harmonious, unified space. So this is a really beautiful aspect. I love this. The basically, just in a nutshell, the Venus-Mars story is that when Mars was in retrograde last winter, he was there for a very long time in Taurus, which was Venus's house, right? Venus's constellation. Venus finally caught up with him in Leo just before she went retrograde. She didn't actually meet up, overtake, and go past Mars. That won't actually happen until later next year. She had to take a retrograde loop. She had to go up and through and around her roller coaster loop to do some learning, to do some healing, to do some surrender. So they're in a sextile now, and this is just an opportunity to unify in harmony. Any intentions, any creative desires, anything that needs to be integrated and worked on. So perfect energy. So this is going to go on all the way from September 13th to October 10th. So this is where it all begins right here. So once that sextile energy comes at us, there is a Leo new moon. Venus shifts from Cancer to Leo. Mercury stations direct, and the sun enters Virgo. All of this is going to create a tremendous shift in energy. It's going to feel very, very interesting. I'm kind of excited. I feel like there's going to be a lot more interacting. That Aquarius full moon that we had before this month started is very much about awakening and helping others awaken. Okay, so there's going to be an awakening energy coming through here. And when we get to these later transits, you'll see why. So, of course, when we get to that Leo new moon, I'm going to do a separate video on that. I haven't quite got the inspiration on it. Maybe just now I did, thinking about, connecting cosmically and awakening others. Yeah. So big shift. I'm excited about that one, guys. Now, this is all going to end with the sun entering Virgo. Yes, Virgo season starts on September 16th. I don't know if I have to show you guys this, but I feel like I should, for those of you that are new or maybe into tropical astrology, because this is a really tough concept sometimes to get into our heads, that the signs that we use in tropical are based on these constellations. So Why take something that's just simply overlaid on our calendar that we've only had for 2,000 years and use something that's ancient, everlasting, and eternal, the clock in our sky? So, so here's when the sun actually enters the constellation Virgo on the 16th, okay? Now, the cool thing about Virgo is the Virgo constellation. This is why you need to understand this, why Sidereal Astrology is so cool. The Virgo constellation, if you were to zoom in with a telescope, like if you took a Hubble right here and zoomed right in, what you would see is over 2,000 galaxies. It's literally the epicenter of the Virgo cluster, which our galaxy is a part of. And it's unsimilar to any other constellation. So if you were to Google how many constellations are in, I mean, how many galaxies are in this constellation or that constellation, you might get numbers like 40 or 200, or the highest I've seen is 700, but Virgo's over 2,000. Okay. So by a magnitude of 100, Virgo is just the home of that center of creation, which is galactic energy. That's taking energy and turning it into matter, like that toroid field that we talked about on the last full moon. Okay, so sun entering Virgo is a huge energy shift. This, and also because this is the beginning of the eclipse season. The full moon after this is the last full moon, and then we dive right into eclipse season. Okay, I have three more things I want to talk about, and then we're going to be done. Okay, let's get into my calendar once again. Okay, so there's that portal, there's that shift, and then next comes Venus squares Uranus, now in direct, and Uranus is retrograde. Okay. Now, Uranus is on the very 0 degrees of Taurus, very 0 degrees, just kind of dipping his toe into Taurus just a little bit. He's going to move direct. He's going to move back into Aries and then direct again. And then next spring, I think, is when he'll enter into Taurus in earnest. So this is the third and final time that Venus is going to square on Uranus. Now, Uranus is that nervous system energy. It's electrifying. It's your crazy wild uncle. It's things you don't expect. Not necessarily bad things, but things you don't quite expect. Okay. So both of these guys, Venus and Uranus, were direct in early July. Then Venus went retrograde in August, and now Uranus is retrograde and Venus is direct. Kind of similar to that Jupiter thing, but because the planets are in different positions, they're not bumping into each other like the Venus and Jupiter were. So I feel like there's been an this whole energy with Uranus, when it comes in and it moves out, has been this overwhelming tension internally and externally, sometimes at the same time, to change things that may not need to be changed, right? This is a square, so there might be a restlessness in the Venus energy, like maybe I'm bored and I just want to change something, or maybe someone makes you feel a certain way about something that's actually pretty good in your life, but maybe you start to doubt it. So energies like that, I feel like, come in almost like a mental roller coaster, so to speak, but more of a nervous system roller coaster. Sometimes and because it's in Taurus, I'm thinking like temptations of the flesh, but not necessarily flesh, but temptations of your security. Like, just in order to get that adrenaline rush, you feel like you need to change something when things are peaceful. So my advice for this whole square is to literally just like surrender, say yes to the peace, because there's so many things around you to be grateful for. And I mean, yes, if you're really moved in the spirit and in the higher self to change something at a dramatic level, go ahead and do that. But for me, it was like, maybe I shouldn't change it. And that actually turned out to be the right decision. So that's Mercury, Uranus. Now we get into sort of the cosmic and the evolutionary principles. This is where the energy is really going to pick up again. And I think we're all going to be called to that bodhisattva, to the awakening of others, to awakening ourselves. And this is such a great opportunity this coming eclipse season. Starting on 9/26, Venus is going to trine the Galactic Center. for the third and final time this year during her retrograde loop. Now, I always talk to you guys about the Galactic Center and how it's important if you've got something in there, right? So when you look at my chart, I've got the North Node right there. So to have, the current Venus sitting over here in Leo, trining on my North Node, that's my karmic destiny. That's my dharma. That's my drive, the thing I get up to do every day. And so a lot of you have stuff in your galactic center. A lot of you have stuff in your Ophiuchus, and Venus is trining on that right now. So look at your Ophiuchus, look at the house that it's in, and see what energy that transiting Venus is trining on, and it's calling to something in your life. That's how it can be specific. That's how we can get astrology to be specific for you. So, like for me, this is trining my karma and dharma. There's a creative flow, there's a creative energy, there's a calling, so to speak, now to take action, to move forward with the destiny that I'm here to do on earth, which I feel like is to help people awaken and to kind of show them the way to flow with the cosmos and to be connected with cosmic ascension energy. So the last thing is Venus trining the North Node, which is conjunct a retrograde Chiron, and sextiling the South Node, which is conjunct Mars in Virgo. Okay, so this is another one of those situations where we had a direct retrograde and now a direct again motion, the loop of the roller coaster. Okay, so this is just basically Venus once again activating our collective destinies, activating our collective evolutionary process. If you look at the current nodes right now, go back to the transits chart. Pluto is squaring these nodes, right? But Venus is trining it, sextiling it. So you have this alchemical transformational energy with Venus and Leo direct next to the star of Regulus, waiting for us to accept that destiny, to use the energy of our pal Mars over here with the energy of the divine mother creator and to work towards healing and universal love for our collective. You guys, once this month is over, some of this energy is going to carry into October. And then October 14th is the eclipse. And I feel like we're going to be doing a little bit more work with that when that energy comes. But right now, I really want you all to think about connecting on that link, scheduling an hour with me to go over your Venus energy. We're gonna do a Venus centered reading of your chart. We're gonna go over previous retrogrades, and we're gonna go over the next few weeks and kind of get you oriented and settled into the Venus energy to get you ready for eclipse season. Because I'll be offering a call, a reading, and a meditation, as well as charts to go with the eclipse. So y'all's Venus energy is ready. All right, you guys, I think that's everything for now. Please check out the Mercury retrograde video. That's also linked. Please look at the Venus cycle short. And please review the last week of Venus retrograde transits. And I think that's everything. Oh yeah, like the video. Subscribe, you lurkers. I love you all. Namaste.